Hello, welcome to Hook Legends, and thanks for watching today's episode. I'm Henry, your host. Hey guys, we're going to do something a little bit different today. As you know, I reported in the last video that still trying to get over a little bit of a winter bug. So, I'm trying not to get out on the water too much. Guys, as always, I have plenty of fishing video clips. Guys, I do a lot of fishing, so I do a whole lot more video clips than I actually post. So I know you guys like to see some fish being slid over the gunwale of the boat. But anyway, today's topic is today's subject. I want to talk to you about presentation. Specifically, we're going to talk about vertical versus horizontal presentation. So hopefully by the end of this video, you have a pretty good idea of situations when you may decide that horizontal versus vertical presentation may be more appropriate. Now, as always, I want to say, if you like these videos and you haven't subscribed, help me get to 10,000, guys. I need your help. Please reach up right now, click subscribe and like. And make sure you click the notification bell so you will be alerted when future videos are released. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break to acknowledge our sponsors. We'll be right back to dive into the action. Okay, so welcome back. Let's go ahead, and I want to start with giving you a definition. I always like to give you the Google AI definition of all of these terms, and then I can tell you where I agree or disagree if, that's relevant. But guys, when it comes to vertical and horizontal jigging, the official Google AI definition is: vertical jigging involves moving a lure straight up and down in the water column, while horizontal jigging moves the lure sideways through the water column. Okay, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell with a whole bunch of more details. So, which is better? Well, guys, it depends. There's certain species of fish, but here on this show, we pretty much focus on crappie. Now, guys, crappie they prefer both. There's going to be times of the year, for example, in the springtime, when the fish they're kind of scattered over what I would say is a medium to large area. And whenever you're trying to target fish that are scattered, then your horizontal presentation is probably going to be better suited for that. With the horizontal presentation, it gives you the ability to cover a larger area. You can cover a larger area faster. And you can also vary the depths that you're covering the area. Now, when you get into the specific methods, you can horizontally fish by casting your lure out. And by the way, at the end of all of this, guys, I'm going to actually take you out in the water. You're going to see some of this, in action. But you can pretty much, when you horizontally fish, you can cast it out and wind it back in. Now, you can also horizontally fish by trolling. Now, trolling has been a popular method for decades, okay? And it still works. First thing I like to say, guys, some of our viewers say, well, Live Scope came out and you kind of changed up what you did. Guys, not really. Here's what happened. Around the same time that I started using Live Scope, I also started switching from a smaller lake, which I did a video on that. That lake was drained and repaired the dam. That lake is filled back up. They haven't stocked it with fish yet, though. That phase is coming. So I started fishing more on Lake Tappan. Now, guys, I went out and I purchased myself 8 16-foot ACC crappie sticks, and I went out on Lake Tappan, and I like to push these guys off the front of the boat, and I was excited. And guys, one afternoon I was down there about 45 minutes before dark, and a school of I can't remember if it was stripers or white bass. Now it's been a couple of years, but guys, it came through and it took all of my brand new rods that I had spent hours rigging them up. And it came through and tried to maul into one big knot about 45 minutes before sundown. So that trip was ruined, guys. In my private lake, we don't have stripers. We don't have white bass. So I can get out there and I can do that without all of my lines getting tied up together. So that was the reason you don't really see me pushing jigs off the front of the boat or spider rigging or long line trolling. Now, it's not to say I'm not going to do it, because the springtime will be coming up before long, and I probably will do some more of that. So, but that's just an example of how horizontal fishing, how it can be used, guys. You can get out there, and when the fish are kind of like in, like I say, a medium to large area, not too widespread, you can just kind of get out there in the end or around spider rigging, and you can catch yourself a whole lot of fish. So once again, that's horizontal fishing. Now guys, horizontal fishing can also be somewhat combined with vertical fishing. Remember, vertical fishing, you're going up and down in the water column. Horizontal fishing, you're going sideways. But a lot of one technique that a lot of people who troll spotter rigs, one of the techniques they like to use is to go making S-turns like this. And what's actually happening is when the boat goes to the inside, the rods on the outside are having to cover a greater distance, and they come up higher in the water column. And the ones that's on the side you're turning towards, that side slows down, and all of those baits will drop down. Okay, and when they drop down, you're actually somewhat kind of, you know, vertical jigging in that scenario. Now let's talk a little bit about your vertical fishing. I've talked about some scenarios like in the springtime, certain times of the fall, when the fish are in an area, not necessarily tightly schooled, but that's when horizontal fishing can really pay off for you. Now let's talk about vertical fishing, viewers. So vertical fishing can be applied when fish are in tight schools. Maybe you're not targeting an individual fish, but guys, I've seen literally hundreds, if not thousands, of fish in a 20 by 20 square foot area. Okay, and basically you can vertical jig, keep it above the top of them. Now guys, one tip I give you: never let a jig drop down below a fish line of sight or below their eyesight. It does something weird to them, probably because excuse me, they're not used to bait fish coming down closer to them when they're attacking. Okay, it's an unnatural movement, so I always try to keep your bait up above the fish's head. So once again, vertical fishing is good when you're fishing on tight schools or you're fishing individual fish. Okay, now there's going to be times also when the mood should help you determine when you want a vertical fish versus horizontal fish. Guys, there's absolutely times when, I don't know why, I don't know what causes it, fish are aggressive. Like right now, we're in the wintertime, right? These fish are feeding pretty heavily. They're somewhat aggressive. However, I've noticed if I cast out my 8-foot rods and I throw it out beyond the fish and I wind it past them, with that bait, the fish is here with that bait coming along like that, for some reason, they're just not reacting at all. I've tried putting a pendulum, you know, type swing on them to get them to bite, and nothing seemed to work. Now, you're going to see it in the video at the end of this, the video clips, and you've already seen it for weeks, guys. I've been fishing like this, you know, for a long time. So you've seen it in action, but there's something about keeping that bait up above their heads. Now, one of the things I changed up about 1 or 2 years ago is I started fishing exclusively just for the larger fish. Some of your smaller fish are more apt to go for a horizontal presentation. Those smaller fish, they don't mind chasing. They have lots of energy. I don't think they put a whole lot of thought into what comes by. They see it and they chase it down, right? A larger fish, a 2-pound, 3-pound fish, they don't get to be 2 or 3 pounds. They jumped on everything that came past them. I think they're a lot more observant. I think they look at it a lot. I think as fish gets older and bigger, they prefer a 90-degree, I guess you would call it, straight up attack versus a sideways attack. So pay attention when you're watching my clips, and you'll see you'll see exactly what's going on there. So, you know, once again, horizontal fishing is for when they're loose. Vertical fishing is when you want to fish straight up and down. So now, so I'm going to talk a little bit now about the bait you use and which bait that I have a preference for. If I am horizontal fishing, I like to use curly tail jigs because the bait is moving across horizontally in the water column, and I like a little bit of action, right? Sometimes when I'm winding, I put my finger on the line so it gives a little bit of a erratic action as it's going through the water. A lot of you, especially in my most recent videos, which have been in the fall and winter, where I'm using a minnow bait. Okay, so if I'm vertical jigging, I like that minnow bait because I'm bringing it down, I'm controlling it, I'm keeping it on top of the fish. Colors, guys, I always say this when someone asks me about colors, my color preferences. Guys, fish never really get to see the top of my jig. Okay, your larger fish have a preference. They want to attack at a 90-degree angle, straight up, and when they're looking up, and I think it's because they want to put less energy. A smaller fish doesn't mind chasing. I think your larger fish don't like chasing as much. They like looking up and coming up and attacking that bait. They don't have to chase it far. They just got to come straight up, get it, and then they're going to go, you know, straight back down. So I prefer a minnow bait And I have some colors I use when it's bright sunny days. I have different colors I use, when it's overcast. I have separate videos where I address and get into those color situations. So that's what I have to say. So those are my thoughts when it comes to your bait selection regarding vertical versus horizontal fishing. So now I'm just going to go. Now I want to go over some general tips, guys. When I'm out, one of the things that I noticed was a problem that's probably a little bit misleading when you look at some of my video clips. I try to keep the fish that I'm catching in the center of the graph, in the center of the screen, right? That's a little bit misleading, guys. What I want you to do when you watch these videos from now on, I want you to try, I hope I can zoom in, but I hope you can go in and look in the upper left-hand corner and see how fast the boat is moving, right? Because even though that it looks like the fish is stationary, you see my bait come in from the top, it will give you the illusion that the fish are suspended and they're sitting there, guys. There's nothing further from the truth. Sometimes I'm running anywhere from 0.25 miles per hour all the way up to a mile per hour chasing these fish. Open water fish in this particular lake are subject to eagles, osprey, other birds of prey. Okay, so these fish are on the move. And your presentation, when you put that lure in the water, you have to be very, very careful not to make a splash, okay? Because these fish are targeted by birds of prey constantly. Any noise from above, in the vicinity of where they are, and they're going to get spooked, they're going to get jumpy, jittery, and they're going to run off on you. So I like to use, for vertical fishing, I like to use a 15, 16 foot rod, okay? I pitch it out, I get it out there about 30 feet, hopefully 5 or 6 feet behind the fish. I'm feathering it with my hand, letting it lie softly on the water, letting it come down. I'm using tungsten weights. They're much smaller, so they displace less water. You're going to get less splash, and they're going to drop faster for you. Not to mention they show up very well on live scope. So I like to toss the bait out, get it on the fish as quickly as possible, but keep it above their heads. When the bait is coming past the fish, as I said previously, it comes past them. For some reason, this time of year, they're just not as, the larger fish, they're just not as prone to want to go chasing after a bait. But if you keep it anywhere from 6 inches to a foot, foot and a half, maybe 2 feet up above their head, and if you leave it there long enough, and you're going to see this in the video, guys, they don't always just jump right on it. You may need to leave that bait there 20, 30, 40 seconds, guys, and do some type of action to it so they notice it. And eventually they come up and they'll take that bait. So one of the things that I do is I'm maneuvering the boat, and I try to keep the fish out a certain distance from the boat. I'm using my crappie brakes to bag out if I start getting too close. If the fish run away from me, regardless of whether they go left or right, I'm chasing those fish. So my transducer is on the trolling motor. Okay, and this time I have 2 boats, guys. You've seen it. I have a pontoon boat and I have the bass boat. I use my pontoon boat most of the summertime. And I use my pontoon boat during the seasons when the fish are on cover or structure, okay? Once the fish come up off of that wood and they start moving around the lake, I'm in that bass boat, and I'm in the boat that has a transducer on the, excuse me. I'm in the boat where the transducer is on the trolling motor shaft. So I can point it at those fish, go and chase them down. So I think I probably have covered most of the aspects of vertical versus horizontal fishing. Remember, if the fish are, kind of somewhat loose and scattered and at different places in the water column, that's when you may want to consider horizontal fishing. But if the fish are tightly in a small area, a large school, you may want to use vertical fishing, especially if you have a minnow, guys. Using minnows, I always use artificial bait. But if you're using minnows and you're over a large school, you can just kind of sit there. The minnow's doing the action for you. Hopefully sooner or later they'll kind of come up and hit it. The exception to that, guys, something you need to know, in the summertime when there's a thermocline set up, those fish are down just below that thermocline level, right? Just below the top of that thermocline. And they are very, very hesitant to come up in that warmer water. So sometimes you got to find that's the right depth that they're willing to come up into to swallow that minnow. So, once again, I want you to consciously think about vertical versus horizontal fishing. And as always, I want you to think about, don't get locked in. I say this always, guys. Never get locked into one way of fishing, okay? I love my 8-foot rod. It's light. I can get out there and I can cast it all day long. If I had my preference, some of your longer rods, sometimes you have to deal with line twists, but it's something that you get better and better at it the more that you use it. So, you know, the fish always dictate my technique that I'm going to use. I don't just go out there with a predetermined way, guys, of how I'm going to catch fish. And in order for you to improve your angling experience, you have to learn to adapt and cater to what the fish want. Okay? So, guys, I think I've exhausted this conversation. I think I've said, put in all the points that I wanted to make about horizontal versus vertical fishing. So, how about let's go ahead now and get out there on the water and show you some fish clips. Now, once again, guys, I hopefully here in the next few days to the week, I'll be over my little winter bug issues that I've been having, and hopefully I can get back out. You know, we've been having some days now where the temperature is below 50 degrees, so even though I'm feeling a whole lot better, and I think I'm okay probably get out there, I don't want to risk it, guys, and I know for some of you that are out there in some of the northern states, and you hear me talk about, oh, it's getting down in the 50s, you're probably laughing, you know, because I know it gets so cold in some of those places that, you know, that doesn't mean anything. I've had I actually have some friends that are from up north that I met down on the lake, and I was out there, I had on 3 layers of clothes like I was living in Alaska, and they passed by on a boat wearing t-shorts and a t-shirt, okay? And I laughed. I hadn't met them at the time, but then I ended up bumping into them in the store and getting to know them pretty well. So, you know, guys, I'm a native Floridian, so when it gets down in the 50s, it's cold. Okay, it's cold, so I'm going to try to, you know, stay healthy, but hopefully I can get back out there on the water soon. So now, let's go out here, guys. Make sure you pay attention to how fast the boat's moving, so you don't think that I'm just sitting there dropping it down. These fish are moving, guys. They're moving frontwards, they're moving backwards, okay? They're moving up and down in the water column. I often get asked for people who don't have live scope. They may pull up to me, and maybe they saw me catch 1 or 2 fish, and they say, well, how deep are the fish? You know, I have a whole different perspective on the depth of fish now, guys, since I have live scope. My response to one boater was, well, they were 2 feet below the surface while you were pulling up, but after you pulled up closer, they went down to 15 or 20 feet. That's normal, guys, you know. A lot of people, especially people trolling, like to know what depth the fish are at. Guys, these fish are all over the place. They'll be up 5 foot. You can catch one of them. If you don't get them out of there fast enough, it kind of makes the other ones jittery, and they'll instantly go to the bottom. They'll go down to the bottom, find the nearest stump of log that's down there, hang out around them. Sometimes you only hang out around them for 2 or 3 minutes, and they go right back up again. So the depth question, we now know since we have live scope that fish are literally all over the water column after the lake is turned over, because the oxygen is evenly distributed. So I said enough. My voice is getting weak. Let's get out here and watch some fish being boat flipped in the boat. Let's get to the action. Got him. Nailed him. That's what you're looking for there now. Let's see. Come on up here. Come on up. That's a big fish, so I'm not going to rush him. Let him come on up on his own. Ah, white bass. Not looking for white bass. Look at that. I am not looking for white bass, folks. Now, I mean, as far as white bass go, that's a nice white bass. Not what I'm looking for, though. Man, I thought I had hung into me a humongous slab. Let's get this fish back out there in the water. Come on.
Got him. Now that's not gonna be a monster. A little big to boat flip. Mom will eat that fish. Yep, Mom will eat that one. Near that titanium jig. Nice little fish. Nice little fish. It's an 11-inch fish, folks. 11 inches. Come on. Got him. Got him. And that one's gonna be a little bigger than the last one. Not a whale. Still not gonna be a whale, but a mini whale. Look at there. That's a nice fish, folks. That's a nice fish. Oh, and he came off. You saw it. Wow. Got him. Nailed him. Whoa, get out that trolling motor. That's not a huge one, but he's a fish. Mom will eat him. Mom will eat him. That fish there, well, he's kind of small. I don't know if he'll make it. I'm gonna give him another. I'm not gonna even weigh him. He's going back. See you, little buddy. Ah, nailed him. Nailed the little fella. He's a little small one, but he's good for practice, guys. Look at there. Not big. I think this is probably one of the smaller ones that I've caught in a while right here. I've caught bluegill. I had some bluegill bigger than this, guys. Let's get him back in the water. Go catch a real fish. See you, little guy. Got him. You gotta coerce him into it, folks. Oh, look at that huge slab. That's a big girl. That's a big girl. Oh, and somebody says this lake don't have 2-pound fish, guys. They say this lake don't have 2-pound fish. Oh, who said this? Whoa. They say the lake don't have 2-pounders, guys. I like to make my business case against that statement. 2-pounders, baby. Yes, sir. Let's weigh this girl up. All right, guys, you see it for yourself. 2 pounds. 2 pounds. That's a 2-pound fish, guys. 2 pounds. Got him. That's gonna be a quality fish, folks. That is gonna be another big girl. Told you, baby. We only send out 2-pound invitations down here. 2-pound invitations. All right, nailed him. Nailed the little guy. Nailed the little guy. The big boys and girls are out to play. This is not going to be one of the bigger ones. But he'll keep. Oh, he won't keep because I lost him. Big boy. Big boy. Nailed him. Nailed him. I'm holding the rod just up in the air, guys, and he came along and nailed it while I was just holding it there. I was out there, I saw some school on. I was headed out to that school and had to hold on to my rod to keep him from taking it from me. Got him. Yes, sir. Hunks. Hunks. Big chunks. Booyah. That's what I'm talking about. Beautiful fish.